They supposed to, and I know people be like, well, in religions, in the mosque, in the tabernacle, in the temple, in the synagogue, our code comes from the Bible, comes from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Holy Quran. But if you look in those fucking books, they're nightmares. They're nightmarish stories. There's no, let me tell you something, and I'll put this. There are no standards like other academic and professional fields. There's the standards and regulations. If you impose the most basic ethics standards, ethics for telling the truth, the most basic academic standards. If you get up in front of the classroom, and you tell the children something that is incorrect or not true, you can be fined, you can be written up, you will be evaluated. I've worked in classrooms and there's been a person in the back with a clipboard sitting in the back of the class listening to and taking notes on everything I say and see if what I say aligns and comports with academic standards. When I was a radiographer, every 2 years, I had to go and get continuing education credits. You can be somebody, I could go home and lay down in the bed tomorrow and wake up and say, the Lord has put it on my heart, go out into the world and to teach his flock, to guard his flock to glory. And I could open a building and I could bring in $10 million a year tax-free, talking utter nonsense, and no one will be able to evaluate, even if they say, well, brother, you claim to be Presbyterian and you're inconsistent. Well, I'm like, well, I'm new Presbyterian. Well, the new Presbyterian says that what you're teaching is, well, I'm not new, I'm new Reformed Presbyterian. Well, brother, new Reformed Presbyterian, you see, well, I'm new Reformed Southern Presbyterian. And all you got to do is add a new name to that shit, and you just make a new one. I'm Baptist. Well, this is what the Baptist, I don't want to do all that shit. Baptists do too much. I'm Southern Baptist. Oh, I don't want to do that. So I'm Southern Orthodox Baptist. I'm Southern Orthodox Reformed Baptist. And they just add names. And here we are looking at this shit happen in real time. In real time. Well, I live in the big city. Somebody say $185,000 for a house. Shit. I live on the south side of Chicago. And that's what they selling the prices in the slums. But anyway, I digress. Especially with Obama coming with that goddamn Obama's presidential gentrification, driving out home rises and driving people out. But all right, let me stay on top. So we look at this shit happen in real time. One of the most powerful, wealthy, and influential institutions in every society. The religion. And you all feel it. I tell, because I know some good Christians. I know some good Muslims. I know, bless their hearts. I know good Christians and I know some good Muslims. But I have to be, because they're good, I say you're not good because of Christianity, you're good in spite of Christianity. It is the most hollow, baseless, absurdist thing, and it has too much power in our society. Religion should not have the power and influence and impact that it has on not just our society, not just on the Black community, but humanity as a whole. That's my ultimate point. Christian nationalism is taking hold and spreading throughout the United States as a complement to fascism and capitalism. Capitalism's contradictions are coming to the fore. People are realizing the lies of capitalism. That capitalism is not just destroying families, not just destroying communities, but it's destroying the ecosystem. And to head off, as more and more people become ravaged by capitalism, the capitalists are financing and supporting any type of ideology, any type of institution that will prevent the masses of the people from identifying the source of their problem and pulling themselves and bringing themselves together to confront the source of the destruction of our lives and the destructions of our futures, the destruction of the ecosystem. So the churches have always been a buffer. The delusions, the nonsense, the utter fantasy and myths that have been taught by the religious, established, formal religions and cults have always served as a buffer, or as they say, religion is the handmaiden of conquest. Or better yet, religion, or as Kwame Ture said, before they send in the Marines, they always send in the missionaries. Because even if the missionaries are successful, they don't even have to send in the Marines. And I'm seeing more and more religious delusions, more and more religion, and so it is one of the most delegitimized and illegitimate sources of information, knowledge, growth, power, morality. We know. Religious ethics are weaker than secular ethics. If you become a professional theocrat, if you become a theologian, if you become a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, an imam, the ethics and standards that you have to follow are lower than a line cook at McDonald's. A line cook at McDonald's has more responsibility and more accountability in their craft. A preschool teacher, a daycare worker who does nothing but wipe noses and butts all day, not trying to disparage, Lord bless child care workers. There should be more of them and pay them more. Every child care worker should be a six-figure earner. I'm not trying to disparage. But you take a child care worker, they have more oversight, training, ethics, and standards than somebody who's leading the flock, who's not only dictating and trying to direct your life, they're going to dictate and direct your afterlife. And we accept it because these men are guided by God. But if I go to any place else and says, listen, I don't need certification, I don't need oversight, I don't need ethics, I don't need protocols and standards, I have God that works nowhere but the church. And you can say, well, I accept that, knowing goddamn well if you went to a mechanic and the mechanic's like, where'd you get your, well, shoot, I asked the Lord to guide my hand as I'm working on your brakes. Lord, guide my hand. Now you'll go sit in the, you'll take your ass to the hospital and sit in the waiting room and say, oh God, guide the hand of the surgeon as they work on your loved one. God, be there, bless that surgeon, bless that anesthesiologist. Lord. But you know damn well if that anesthesiologist walked into the room and you went into his office and you didn't see no degrees on there, and he was like, well, I'm not actually, didn't go to school. I went to church. I went to the Lord. I sat at the feet of the master to learn my skill. You wouldn't let that person touch your loved one. Y'all know this shit ain't shit. Why does it still have such prominence and power? Why, whenever you line up 100 black leaders in any community at any stage of our existence in this country, you line up 100 black leaders, 99 of them motherfuckers are going to be reverend, minister, blah, blah, doctor. They're going to all be theocrats. We stay losing. We stay struggling. We stay regressing, but we stay with the same form of theocratic leadership and theocratic hierarchy. And people get mad at me, saying I need to let people believe what they want to believe, as if a person's belief does not impact everybody around. Let me believe what I want to believe. And I'm like, well, I can let you believe what you want to believe, but that's only if your beliefs do not impact your behavior. And if your beliefs don't impact your behavior, I still can't trust you because that's literally a psychopath. So no, not only am I not going to let you believe what you believe, not in terms of changing your mind, but in terms of if you assert or announce this is what you believe, I'm going to deal with you accordingly. If you are a theocratic person, I'm going to have less. If you are a religious, spiritual person, I'm going to have less confidence in you. I'm going to have less confidence in you because I know you could fuck me over and go home and say a little prayer and all shit is forgiven. I do not believe if I wrong another person, I don't have any outlet. If I do somebody wrong, my only recourse is to either go to that person and seek somehow to make amends to that person or carry that wrong thing that I did. There is no absolution. My sins cannot be forgiven. How's somebody going to wrong you and then go ask God for forgiveness? Ask God for forgiveness for shit you did against God. Don't ask God for forgiveness for what you did against me. God don't have my permission to forgive nobody for nothing he does to me. These religion, which people falsely tell us is the foundation for morality, which is the foundation for righteousness, which is the foundation for our very humanity, is the weakest, which is why the world is so inhumane. Human morality is superior to religious morality. Human morality is superior to God's morality. I'm more righteous in justice than your God because I wouldn't kill off a bunch of people. I wouldn't require a bloody sacrifice. I wouldn't require a bloody sacrifice for me to forgive people or to save people. I would not hold the power to stop pain, suffering, starvation, and disease and withhold that so you can learn some lesson. I would not hide away and talk to people through patterns in water stains or whisper to corrupt, swine-eating idiots in their sleep and give them a message to go speak on my behalf. But we allow that. If you have a personal belief system, you should be the number one critic of that belief system. Because I believed. I was a believer. And not only were my questions not answered, I was told I didn't have the right to ask the questions. And that sent me on a spiral. I was baptized at 12 and I left the church by 14, but I was still a believer well into my late 20s. I believed in there's some type of God. I was finding ways. Maybe it's Haile Selassie. Maybe I'm God. Maybe I'm Allah. I got arm, leg, arm, head. Maybe I'm God. I still believe there was some supernatural divine force. And I had to find the right rituals, erect a shrine, join and go into the right community to join that force. And I'm like, why am I forcing myself to see something that's not there? And I'm like, I'm done with this make-believe shit. And I do believe that it is a central component to Pan-African liberation. And people look at me and all the time say, you're never going to stop black people from believing. You're never going to, we are spiritual people. None of that stands up to evidence. None of that stands up to evidence. So now that Christian nationalism is emerging from the oppressors, Christian nationalism is an attempt to divert the just rage that is produced by capitalist hyper-exploitation. It is a shunt or a vent for the white masses to understand or to rationalize what capitalism has done for them. The Christian nationalists are scapegoating and attacking vulnerable populations and unreal entities. And they are being goaded, funded, and directed by the elites who don't believe none of that shit. And it is a grand threat to the black masses because we know that the ultimate goal of fascism is genocide. That's the ultimate outcome, massive murder orgies. And even worse than that, many black people, through centuries of Christian indoctrination or religious indoctrination in general, are very susceptible to embrace the ideas, the goals, the values of the Christian fascists. And I have to say something else. There's no such thing as a good Christian, because you can't be a Christian and good. There's no such thing as a good Muslim, a good Jew. I'm not even going to get to Hindu, because religions are rising up and wreaking havoc everywhere. It's a maladaptation